when you do that, you create a vacuum, and the vacuum now has been filled, and now we see the president in the first 2 years of office give two examples of how not to do things when it comes to these types of revolutions, in my opinion. Number one, Iran, where a year and a half ago, in 2009, there was a revolution in Iran that was taking place, and Barack Obama clearly sided with the mullahs and the despots who were antagonistic to the United States, developing a nuclear weapon, and were a danger to our country, and against the revolutionaries in the street. Fast forward now a year and a half later, we now are in a country where the despot, if you will, has been friendly to the United States, and he sides with the demonstrators and against the despot, our friend, and tells him that he has to leave. I'm not defending Hosni Mubarak. I think Hosni Mubarak was an authoritarian dictator, but he's going to be better than the Muslim Brotherhood controlling Egypt. And now, I don't know if that's going to happen, but I do know, if you look at what's going on in Egypt, that 84% of Egyptians in their most recent poll said that they believe that if someone converts from Islam to another religion, they should be killed. That if you look at all of what the Muslim Brotherhood has done, even though they've been a repressed political party, their focus has always been, since their founding in the 1920s, to educate the young people, to create these little jihadists. And that's what they've done in Egypt. And so the idea that these are westernized Democrats, if you will, out in the streets of Cairo, who are forcing this revolution, sure they are, but they are useful idiots, potentially. Now maybe the Obama administration has got some assurances the military can put a control on this, but if they do, it isn't going to be a freedom agenda. These people are not going to be more free as a result of what's happened. It's just going to be another dictator put in place, and I'm not too sure that that's all likely to happen, given what's the dynamics in Egypt right now. Long story short is, this administration has told our allies, our friends around the world, that if someone is going to, if there's any kind of revolt against you from the populace, we're going to walk away from you. And told our enemies that if there's any revolt against you, we're going to actually side with you. And we've created a vacuum for the jihadists to take control of the Middle East, which I think is all around horrible.
That's former Pennsylvania Senator Rick Santorum joining us here on our Road to the White House series at the White House. We're doing this monthly with presidential candidates. And do you feel that we had a huge role in what happened in Egypt, or was it more just the will of the people? And do the people make a decision, and do the people force the change, as opposed to anything the United States did or didn't do?
I think the United States, not only did we do anything, we were caught by surprise when it happened.
But what's wrong with the will of the people having their way?
There's nothing wrong with the will of the people. My concern is, how does the United States manage this situation? And what I've suggested is, what we should have been doing, and we're not doing in this administration, is pushing Mubarak to be more open, to allow more economic and political freedom there. And clearly, Barack Obama over the last 2 years did not. And when it did pop, then the president all of a sudden gets his pro-democracy hat on and sides with protesters. Many of them could be, I mean, it's like siding with the protesters in the streets of Germany after the First World War, because of an authoritarian regime that was in Germany. Well, guess what we got? And here we have a situation where we know that the Muslim Brotherhood is the only viable party in Egypt today. And we also know that they have done a good job of educating the populace in jihadist types of ideology, and that is not a good formula for a likely ally of the United States to come out of this process.
Dean, believe you had a question.
Yes, Senator, we have a lot of independents here in New Hampshire. Many of them, or some of them, will probably choose to vote in the Republican primary this time around, since President Obama is unlikely to be challenged for the nomination. Some of those folks will have voted for Obama in 2008 and perhaps are unhappy with him now, but they're not necessarily comfortable calling themselves conservatives either. What's the message that you send to them in order to try to win them over?
Well, look, the conservative / Republican agenda is one that says we believe in free people, not government control. that's really ultimately the big decision in this race. Comes down to, do you believe in free enterprise? Do you believe in capitalism? Do you believe in markets? Do you believe in limited government? Do you believe in people's ability to be able to rise and fall? And when I say rise and fall, I mean rise and not hammer people because they're really successful, and fall and not catch everybody for 99 weeks of unemployment and every other kind of benefit in the world that costs us money and I believe costs us jobs. So we need to have some element of that frontier entrepreneurial spirit in America that says, we're going to allow people to succeed greatly, and we're going to allow people to actually fail, because through failure we actually learn things in our society. We actually, not our society, individually. I don't know of anybody that doesn't learn more from failure than they do from success. And so allowing sort of the ups and downs is a good thing, and it's what's made this country great. It's why my grandfather came to this country, my father came to this country. So I don't think that's a conservative pitch. I think that's why everybody comes to here. It's an American pitch. It's who we are. And I think when most independents look at Barack Obama, they see someone who preached something and delivered something else. And he preached this new way. He preached this, returning to American principles of hope and opportunity. And what he delivered was huge government, huge debt. In a very short period of time, we could see this economy start to percolate a little bit and inflation start to spike. And what that will do to interest rates and our debt burden, it will crush us. I don't know of any independent who wants to see an economy as hammered and oppressed by our debt burden that we're going to see.
Go ahead, Obed.
Sure. First of all, welcome again to New Hampshire Senator Santorum. It's great to see you here.
Honored that you are here and joining us.
You are going to be a resident of New Hampshire before too long with a few more.
Well, that's nice because I don't have to pay taxes. That's the good thing. I mean, it's not a bad thing to be a resident out here.
Recently the federal district court ruled that Obamacare, the entire health care bill, was null and void because of certain unconstitutional provisions in it. Yet the administration seems hell-bent on implementing Obamacare, notwithstanding that decision. How would you handle that as president, and what kind of distinguishing aspects or messages would you give in the campaign when you're running in the general election?
Well, clearly, I am for the repeal of Obamacare. I mean, I think that the most important of all the domestic policy issues, Obamacare is the most important, because Obamacare is not just about, it is not just about this huge new government bureaucracy. It's not just about this $2 trillion brand new entitlement at a time when we have huge debts and huge entitlement problems that we have to solve. It's about control of people's lives. It's about having that ability to be able to say to people what kind of care they're going to get, whether they're going to get the kind of care for themselves, for their children, for their family. And when you have that dependency, I'll never forget during the Obama debate a year ago in January, and Barack Obama decided that he was going to double down and go for this and try to get the Senate bill passed by the House. And I was in the green room with the now famous Juan Williams, and who is the Democrats' mouthpiece on Fox. And I said to him, what are you guys doing? I said, you guys are going to get destroyed. You're just saying to the American people, we don't give a damn after what happened in Massachusetts. We're just going to double down and go forward. And he said, well, this is what my Democratic colleagues are telling me. They're saying that Americans love entitlements, and this is his words, once we get you hooked on entitlements, then you'll never let it go. So these are the drug dealers. It's not just about big government. It's not just about debt. It's about getting hooked. It's about becoming dependent. It's about relying on government for the lives of your children, yourself, and your family. And that is a dangerous, dangerous thing. That's why if you look at what's going on in Europe, one of the things, like Margaret Thatcher, she was able to accomplish a lot. She was never able to crack the British health system because people get hooked. And that's why this has to be repealed, because if we don't and people get hooked, I think the road to European socialism is going to be in asphalt instead of dirt.
It's New Hampshire Now, the WKXL 91450 and ConcordNewsRadio.com. Our Road to the White House series. I am Chris Ryan with Ovid Lamontagne and Dean Spiliotis, as we're joined by former Pennsylvania Senator Rick Santorum, who's in the decision process to whether or not he's going to pursue the Oval Office. And getting to who you are personally, what characteristics do you feel that you have that make you qualified and would allow you to exude the duties of the office of the presidency in the best fashion?
I have a thick skin and a good sense of humor. I think those are two very good qualities for someone who wants to be president of the United States, because if you don't have a thick skin, this is a very, very tough business. You got to stay focused on what's important, and what's important isn't you. And that to me is a very important quality of a leader, is that you keep your eye on the ball. And one of the things I always did when I was in the United States Senate before I was in the House, I never worried about the election. I never worried about my approval ratings. I worried about trying to solve the problem, trying to get to the heart of the issue, try to do the right thing, and try to build a coalition to get that done. And I always felt like I always say this over and good government is good politics. If you're doing your job, then the politics will take care of themselves. And you know what? And if the politics change, which they do in this country, they change, as we saw in 2008 versus 2010, the politics change, you're toast. But that's okay. I mean, as long as you've done it and you've done your job, and you can walk away and say you did the right thing, you were true to your principles, and you were true to what you thought was in the best interest of the country. And particularly at this time in American history, I mean, whoever's the next president is going to be walking into a complete a disaster in many respects with respect to our this huge debt burden. And I wish I could believe that Barack Obama is serious about cutting spending and doing something about entitlements. I just don't believe it. In the State of the Union address, he never mentioned either. And if he's not going to do it this year, if he's not going to challenge the Congress and put forth some ideas to take him, he's not going to do it in an election year, I can guarantee you that. So there's no movement to make any kind of change in Washington, D.C. under this president. So you're going to be stuck with huge mountain of debt and a structural deficit that will potentially crush our economy and put us into the status of some of what we're seeing in the European countries. On top of that, we're seeing, I wish I could say and believe that Egypt was a one-off. But Egypt's the largest country in the Arab world, and it is a leader in the Arab world. If what happens to Egypt will absolutely have an impact on what happens in Syria and Yemen and Lebanon and Jordan and go on. This is going to have a huge impact and a ripple effect. And maybe it will turn out well. Maybe the military will stabilize things and be able to impose a regime that is counter to what the Muslim Brotherhood wants. I am not sanguine about that happening. So, long story short, we need someone who's going to be in there, who's going to solve problems and willing to take them on, and hopefully can rally the people. And I think having a thick skin, good sense of humor, and the willingness to keep your eye on the ball are going to be good traits.
It's New Hampshire Now, the WKXL 91450 and ConcordNewsRadio.com. I am Chris Ryan. The road to the White House starts at the Barley House, and this is our special monthly program that we're doing from the Barley House with former Pennsylvania Senator Rick Santorum. We're going to take a brief time out and return with more here on the New Hampshire Now program. Welcome back. It's New Hampshire Now, the WKXL 91450 and ConcordNewsRadio.com. No time even for the Guinness. Come on, let me have a sip. There you go.
Go ahead.
Welcome back to New Hampshire Now, WKXL 91450 and ConcordNewsRadio.com. I am Chris Ryan, and thanks so much for joining us for the program. It is our Road to the White House series, the Barley House here in downtown Concord. Our special guest for the first of our monthly series is former Pennsylvania Senator Rick Santorum, and joining me in interviewing Senator Santorum is Ovid Lamontagne, as well as Dean Spiliotis. And we'll start off this segment with a pretty simple question. If President Obama were sitting here at the table, right here with us in the front window of the Barley House, what would you say to him about why he does not deserve a second term? How would you start off that conversation?